My guest has the key to your house. And what do I mean by that? He's a cybersecurity specialist, but this is going to be unique because he's going to go over some specifics to make sure that you have a lock in your door and someone cannot get into your house. That being cybersecurity expert Mike Armistead. What's going on, Mike?
Hey, Kenan, glad to be here.
Let's get right to it. Tell me what the chances are someone's going to break into my small business and take all my stuff.
It depends on really the perspective there. I mean, think about all the millions of small businesses and stuff. You could make an argument that the probability any one getting attacked is fairly low.
Okay.
But at the same time, we have a different world evolving with the good of AI. There's the bad of AI, and so there's going to be a reach on the adversary or threat side of things that is gonna be a little different, coming up too. So I think that probability of the individual is gonna change. It'll still probably work in patterns, like they'll take certain kinds of businesses and they'll create a playbook about what's worked or what hasn't worked, and they'll attack kind of that way according to that playbook,
And that
in
worries
that.
me because AI, artificial intelligence, which I've been a big proponent of for years, it worries me in that it could be used for good. Artificial intelligence could be used for good, but it could be used for bad. And so many people now have their hands in AI. Some of the bad people could, reach in, uh, get a key, quote, a key into our house and unlock it pretty easily via mass distribution of bad stuff, if you will. So that's the reason I'm so concerned. And so many of our viewers and listeners are small business owners who don't have, who can't put up, a moat around their business, who can't, make sure the lock is changed every day. I'm really worried for some of these small business owners out there.
Yeah, and I think it's a good concern. We all should be concerned, and I've been in the cybersecurity business for a while, and it very much is this arm race against what the attackers have and what the defenders have. And I think it gets down to certain principles in my mind on things, in that you do need to think about yourself as a small business, and what are the assets and the things that you have that you absolutely want to protect, that couldn't, that would shut down your business tomorrow. um, but you also have to think about the adversaries, and as they get more capable, or it becomes more likely that they may hit you, just like if you're in your neighborhood store, if your neighborhood changes a little bit, you've got to think about what you're going to do. And that kind of gets to the fact that why your listeners here may be hearing much more about things like access control, right? Because so much of our stuff is in the cloud now, and if your
Hmm.
credentials, your passwords, your usernames gets out there, um, you just don't want those to be an easy entry for someone, because they're very good at fooling people and giving that up, and that too. I mean, I worry so much about my 92-year-old dad who still, he hears someone who he thinks he trusts because it's a brand name,
Hmm.
and then, thinking about that. And it's the same in business, right? It could be a supplier and they're just spoofing who the supplier is, and be able to get that. So knowing your credentials and who has access to what, and maybe that's not as hard as is, just making your passwords be a lot more complicated. And then so that means you need a password manager so you don't forget what that is. Um, and then also, it pays to practice. Now, what do we mean by practice? You can hire people to pretend, to do ethical hacking. That's what they call it. To
Hmm.
to see if they could get in, and they'll give you a report about what is. And the good news of AI is more of those are using AI, so they can do it inexpensively, for businesses and that too. And that's kind of the good side. I think we're going to see a rise of the AI defender as well. Unfortunately, I think it goes in fits and starts, and one gets ahead
Yep.
of the other, and that, and I think the bad guys are probably a little bit ahead right now. But
That's exactly right. I think the bad guys are ahead right now. So obviously, you're one of the good guys. So why don't you outline for maybe a minute what your background is so we can prove that you are one of the good guys?
yeah, well, for the last, I'd say 25 years, I've been in the cybersecurity space. Kind of started out my career in building things in the software world, or being a vendor for other people that build things. And the things that we noticed pretty quickly is also builders don't think, they think like builders. So why would someone try to destroy this thing I'm building? And that's why even when you hear about applications and software and stuff, why it's often the point of entry for attackers, and it's because that's created by people that create things. They don't destroy things, and
Mhm,
they tend to be optimistic. Um, but for the last 25 years, I've been helping people identify where things could be vulnerable, and or looking at all this mountains of data that are coming their way uh, from the tools that they do have, their antivirus and their, their network equipment or other things like that, and to be able to tell if it's real or if it's benign,
mhm.
and so, yeah, and I've, serviced by all the major banks, all the healthcare, retailers, all these folks have been part of the customers that I've had products at.
Yeah, and you're a good authoritative voice on cybersecurity. So I'm going to ask a question. Remember, my goal is to be different in these episodes to add value to those who are watching, listening, etc. So answer me this: uh, cybersecurity is sexy for a small business owner. Why?
Oh, because of the bling you get with it. No, I'm just kidding. Um, it's it is that's a great question.
I
I
know it
think
is. I know. I want to
there
be different. That's exactly right.
yeah. Um, it's sexy because this is kind of the new battlefield that's going on kind of across the world and across all sorts of places. Um, you know, your listeners will know, I mean, Hollywood is battling different things. Countries when I first started, the first cybersecurity company I started, we actually pitched ourselves uh, with this storyline that no way would another country attack a company in another country. It would never happen because they would start a war. Oh my gosh, does China or North Korea or Russia are there bad actors that attack things in the states? Absolutely. Um, and so the sexy part is, you know, you can make yourself much less a target and have a great business and grow in your business because it is also a place where they're going to take the path of least resistance because it's such a target rich environment.
And
And
my thought is
so,
they're gonna go after all the little companies because those are easy. It's easy to get money from smaller companies versus a bigger company, so you can hold them hostage and get, whatever, millions, if not billions from the small companies. That's my thought.
well, you can, but there's an economies of scale that works there too, right? So
Sure.
why do they still attack a casino, which happened last year? It's because you can demand millions of dollars to try to if there was a ransomware attack.
Mhm.
And you'd have to do that to a whole lot of small businesses. And so that now, like I said at the beginning, the technology is getting there where it's getting to be a little easier. So yeah, you
Exactly.
do have to pay attention to this. It's not an optional thing anymore. And again,
That's exactly right.
I liked your analogy. Sorry to interrupt, but I liked your analogy of the house because it's much like that. Think of physical security and do you
Mhm.
leave do you leave it is it easy to get in? Like, do you leave your front door open or
Totally.
practically open, or back window or something like that, or a way in that's just easy. And those are the things that every listener in small business needs to be just paying attention to. Don't make it easy on these guys.
Yeah, I think cybersecurity is sexy for a small business owner because it keeps your business going. Because there's going to be so many attacks because of artificial intelligence, maybe some other technology down the road that, well, if you lose your business because of, a cyber attack, it's going to be hard to get going. And I think that's the reason I think it's sexy because you're going to have a business that's operating still because you've got cybersecurity kind of things in place. You've got a moat around your business, wall around around your business, and a good lock in your door, using the physical element again. So let me ask this then. So how about this? What are the four pillars? I think you mentioned it earlier. What are the four pillars to cybersecurity for a small business owner?
Yeah, I call them the four pillars because I just think they're the essential things that even the big guys have to use, and so you need to do this. So the first is really know your assets and really value rank those things. And so, what do I mean by your assets? Well, it may be where your customer list is stored within that. It might be Actually, you might have, order processing and things like that that, has certain entry points and certain storing certain things. But first of all, value rank those. And that's gonna be important because you want to protect and you don't have enough money to protect everything, so you wanna protect the things that um, that are either the most at risk or would shut down your business, as you were saying.
Mhm.
And so knowing what your assets are is key, number 1. Number 2 is you do have to pay a little attention to what's going on out there in the world. It's really knowing your threats. Um, w what is it? The Art of War is the famous book by,
Yep, yep.
something. It's like, know yourself and know your enemy, and then you're gonna be able to, compete basically in this
Mhm.
or win the battles. So, knowing your enemy is just are in your space, and it could just be your location, it could be your town, it could be I mean, are other people getting, hacked or having some sort of event that might even just be suspicious in that. Is there
Mhm.
phishing attempts being done on people in that too? So know the enemy, what their techniques are. Even, you don't have to be a real deep in technology here. You just have to kind of know, is it mostly used like ransomware? Is that the thing that they do? And so you can take steps to protect against that. And that would be another pillar, which be make sure things are backed up. We're living more and more in an electronic world, and it's easy to kind of say, yeah, that's in my laptop or that's somewhere. Well, if if it gets a ransomware on it, which means you're locked out of, that particular laptop or all your systems, how you gonna, how can you restart your business? And that usually means you
Mhm.
back up somewhere daily, maybe. Doesn't have to be all that frequent. Doesn't have to be this like every minute or two like a bank would, but daily, even weekly might work. That you do that. So you protect your digital assets by doing that.
Okay.
Um, and then the last part I'd say is controlling access. So the fourth one is truly, and I'm going to say something really simple here, but I think it's very important. I use a password manager. I get everyone in my family, all my kids, my wife, everyone, because that's such an easy way in for someone to either figure it out or, once they have one, to apply it to somewhere else and just see if it works. Um, and so what password managers do is allow you to have, say, a 15 to 20 character login that you never have to remember. But if you're diligent about keeping it organized, which those password managers are pretty good about that,
Mhm.
um, is to just all you have to do is click in there, say I want to use, the password manager to my bank. If I'm going to my banking app, and it'll fill it in. And uh, these days, it used to be that the best practice was change it every, couple weeks. That's no longer the best practice because we figured out people forget and they really forget and they're always resetting them and stuff too. Now it's just make them longer and more complicated.
Mhm.
Is the best practice. And I think, those are some simple steps that people can start to take.
Well, those are simple but smart. So, like, I won't say his name, but, I have a buddy who's very high up, and he's, working with the government as far as cybersecurity, and he uses the same password for all this stuff. And I'm like, "Oh my gosh, dude, really?" And what I would say is, I mean, if that's happening at the top levels of our government consulting, the average mom and pop probably are doing the same thing, which is a bigger concern. So I think that's good that we hit that maybe even twice. So explain just in case I know people know, but explain password manager and maybe some of the top ones you think are good that can help, let's say, a mom and pop or small business owner.
Yeah. So what these are, they're basically applications themselves. And think of it as your own lockbox at a bank. And you do have to remember one key, which is your master password.
Password.
And you make that one just long and complicated enough. I will tell you, I've done it with a past address I had and a past phone number. There's no and then some semicolons and other things in there. And so it'd be super hard for anyone to really guess. But once you have that, you open that lockbox, and then it basically per the passwords and the sites that you have, it'll keep your username and password for each of those. And you should have different ones for all those things. Like you were mentioning
Mhm.
your friend. You shouldn't be the same one because you just don't want to give that away too easily.
Mhm.
So there's a number of them. Dashlane is one. LastPass is another. You know, there's probably a half a dozen of these that did more and more people. I mean, your own. If you have a Mac laptop, Mac has its own password managers. Windows has its own, and you can use those too. Um, the thing is, you just have to remember it's that one key that you got to remember. And you don't
Yeah.
want to. Now, luckily, they have fallbacks even to that, where you can have either assign somebody else, or you can go through a series of questions to kind of get your password back if you end up losing it. But those
I love
these things are great.
I love password managers because you don't have to remember things. If you do it in your browser, it can remember it for you. Or if you do it in a certain type of password manager, it will, or password vault, whatever you want to call it. Whenever you go to the website, it populates it for you, so it makes it easy. And at the same time, yeah, if you remember one password, that meaning for the main vault or password manager, it gets you in there, and then you can see all your stuff. There's a bunch of things you could do because you have that password manager that makes it really nice, and I feel secure. And hopefully, those aren't going to get violated as far as those being being hit
Well, I
by
mean
a
that's
cyber attack.
think about the listeners here, right? It's their reputation is 100%. And they may be larger now and stuff too, but they've started small business. They can't let that happen, and so they really safeguard this. I will tell you, there have been attacks in the past against these things, and they've held up really well though,
Yeah, I
generally.
understand. So as we get ready to close the door on this episode, what's one thing we haven't talked about that you think can add value to a small business owner? Maybe he or she is in Washington all the way to Florida, maybe New York to California, anywhere in the country that you think that we would add value to someone who's watching or listening who's a small business owner as far as cybersecurity goes.
I'd say, spend a little money to have a security consultant review what
Hmm.
you have. You're a small business owner. You're obviously thinking of your business. You're not going to be a cybersecurity expert, no matter how many times you listen to this podcast or this episode. And so get an expert just to come and do an assessment of where you're at, and then you could decide on, again, as you inventory things, how much you want to go through it, and decide how much you want to spend. And it's a lot like having insurance, to your thing. And now the big guys all have cyber insurance now, and that's kind of, you're trying to get a level of assurance, and this would help you do that. That you can protect your goods and the value that you've created in your business.
Yeah, yeah, I love it. So, okay, thank you very much. So, I know you're a consultant. You know you have depth of knowledge. How does someone get a hold of you if they're interested in pulling some of that information out of Mike Armstead's brain?
Well, there's a number of ways. I'll tell you. I will direct you to a community that we've started called the Security Impact Circle. Now, this is a lot of security professionals, but we uh, those professionals and we ourselves put blogs on there and talk about different things that we do. As you made mention, Henry. I mean, I'm started my own company that is building a product that is going to use AI to help businesses of all sizes to do that. So you could definitely track us, and we're at pulsesecurity.ai. And yeah, just watch for us in the future.
Just in case, can you spell that for us?
Yeah, so it's just a pulse, Pulse, security, SECURITY. I got that right. .ai. So
I think you got it.
pulsesecurity.ai.
I think you got it right. Yeah, that's been good. That's been good because I do think cybersecurity for small business owners is a big deal. Because if you want to have your door open, well, a lot of bad people could potentially come into that door, into your house, into your whatever, into your business. But if you have a good lock on it, it could potentially help you raise the value to your clients because you're keeping their materials, their data secured. I think it's a good thing that you're doing. I believe in cybersecurity probably more so than I ever have with the advent of artificial intelligence and other technologies that are coming down the pike. Ladies and gentlemen, this has been an awesome episode. Mike, thank you very much for taking the time. For the people who are watching and listening to this, please reach out to Mike versus or at his website, et cetera, that he mentioned. And if you need anything from us, we'll be at vastsolutionsgroup.com. Once again, this is Ken of French. Thanks, everybody.